Well, shalom, shalom, everybody. Ariel Tzadok here from the Kosher Torah School, found online, where else? www.koshertorah.com. Okay, guys, we are continuing in our lessons in this month of Elul, our countdown to Rosh Hashanah. Our lessons in the Tikunei Zohar, Sephardi tradition, to always be learning the Tikunei Zohar during the month of Elul. Tonight is the 15th of September, a Sunday night here in Knoxville, Tennessee. And it's an exciting time here. World Wrestling Raw is coming to Knoxville tomorrow night. I haven't been to a wrestling match in 35 years, but I think tomorrow night we're going to take the Rabbanit and give her a little exposure to American culture. I think my mother-in-law is going to kill me by turning her darling French, I don't even know the proper word, proper French lady, turning into American, how the European stuff is. Anyway, I always have problems here with my computer. My screen blanks, it goes down, up, whatever. Yeah, whatever. But anyway, that's what's happening here in good old Knoxville tonight. And I decided, I was watching, I don't know how many of you might remember the Naked Archaeologist. Do you remember Simcha Jacobvisi, right? Who did the Naked Archaeologist? He did all the Exodus decoded type stuff. Well, I always liked his stuff. I think that he did a lot of true stuff, especially when he claimed that he found the burial site of the family of Yeshu. I believe it. I saw the evidence that he had there. And I'll flip my key palm around here for a second. And it looked kosher to me. It really fit in with a lot of the stuff that we know from our Torah traditions about the actual historical Yeshu and stuff. Of course, it's heretical too, many on the Christian side, but what can I say? Yeah, the French gave us Andre the Giant. The last time I went to wrestling, I saw Andre the Giant. Hulk Hogan, remember these guys, right? How many of you remember Sergeant Slaughter versus the Iron Sheik? Roddy Rowdy Piper? And this is what I remember from my day. But the Rabbanit, what can I say? She loves wrestling just like so many other people. And when I saw that they were coming to Knoxville, I said, how can you say no to something like that? Tickets were even affordable that a rabbi could afford. So cool and groovy. Hey, just remember something about observing a spiritual life. The purpose is to bring heaven down to earth. The big mistake that people make, and this is actually tying into what we got to learn, is that you become so heavenly minded that you become no earthly good. And obviously that's the opposite of those people who become so hedonistic that they become so earthly grounded that they can't connect with heaven. Both opposites are bad. That's really the simplicity of it. We have to learn how to have that proper balance in life. We discussed this in our previous class, which was the concluding class of Tikunei Zohar 67. And essentially, I was really tempted to rename the class the Kabbalah of Sex, because we got into a lot of talk of the actual performance of sexuality in holiness. And it's going to come back right in this tikkun. The reason why I chose tikkun 24 is because it does discuss many of the topics similar to that which we discussed already in 67. So it's kind of like a continuity of things. Now, understand that the conflict between, if you call spiritual good, physical bad, that came out of the Greek schools of philosophy. It is not foundational to our Torah path. The Torah path has never looked at what God created as being bad. I mean, doesn't it say in creation, God looked around the world and everything he created, says, why he told it was good. So it's good, it's good. That's just the way it is. But just because something is good doesn't mean that we have complete total access without care or reserve. That's a problem. So, for example, how many of us want to live natural, healthy lives, and we want to eat the herbs of the field and all those good natural things that grow? I think that's pretty cool, right? Are you going to eat everything that grows on the earth? Yeah, well, let me tell you something. Try eating some of that in good old delicious hemlock. You die. Try eating some of those delicious, tasty mushrooms. You die. Yeah, you have to know parameters. You have to know balance. Everything in our reality is a combination of what we call tov v'ra, good. I don't know. I don't like the word evil. You know why? Because it places a moral judgment. I don't consider poisonous mushrooms to be evil. They're bad for us, but they're there for a reason. When we understand the actual truths of the natural way, what is the way? Remember, Elohim, that is in Gematria, Hateva, nature. So if you really want to understand the natural way, you really want to understand the ways of Torah, the ways of mitzvot, then what do? It's really simple. All you have to do is understand nature, understand the way God made the universe to be, and you live like that. It's really that simple. So I was mentioning to you, I'm going to coin the term here, naked Kabbalah. I like that term. Again, Simcha, he used that term with his Naked Archaeologist show because he used the term to say, I'm going to strip everything down. I'm going to open it all up and show it to you raw. And I said, that's really what we need to do with the Torah teachings of the mysticism. We need to expose the raw truth. We need to allow people to see for themselves what's real. If you look at books like the Zohar, I'll be honest with you, I do not hold by the views of those who hold the Zohar to be like the third holy book of Judaism. You got the Bible, Talmud, and Zohar. I don't believe that at all. Whereas I believe that the Zohar's got a lot of great information to offer us. I again believe that unless you understand the Zohar properly, then it's probably better you don't expose yourself to it than do. Knowledge can be a dangerous thing, especially when the knowledge is not clear or proper. We have that concept now that's risen in our world today called fake news. I've been reading stories this past few days about companies that are out there now exposing fake videos, and the types of manipulations that people do in these videos is remarkable. I remember years ago that we're dating ourselves. They used to have these types of television programs in which it looks like a breaking news story. And you had people at the news desk telling you the story just like it was an actual news report. And I remember watching this one story about them finding a nuclear bomb. I think it was in some southern city, whatever it was. And I remember watching the show for the first 15, 20 minutes of it, thinking that it was real. Until it dawned on me, say, wait a second, what network is this? How come I don't recognize the anchors? Remember, this was back in the 1980s when all we had was 3, 4 networks. And then I saw the commercial that it was actually a film. And it goes back, how many of you might remember from, gosh, we're dating now, back in the 1930s when Orson Welles did that radio program, War of the Worlds. And even though they announced that it was a play and that they had commercials in it and everything else, people listened in, they thought it was real. Fake stories go back a long way. They've only become more sophisticated. You got a lot of problems today with fake learning, in which people read something and they actually think they understand it at face value. Not that that's a new phenomenon. This has been going on for a very long time. It is frustrating being a rabbi, as I am, 30 plus years being ordained here. And somebody will send me an email saying, don't you know that the halakha, Jewish law, says this or that thing? And I sit there and I laugh. I write people back. I try not to be, insulting or offensive because, that really doesn't really help any situation. And I said, something, just because you read something in a book, I don't care if that book is the Rambam or even the Shulchan Aruch. That's not the way we, post-sec or decide law. Law is a very, Jewish practice. Is a very intricate, sophisticated type of, living body, which takes into account all too many things. It's not just black and white like you read in a book. And it exposes, if you will, almost a Christian type of mentality, in which it says, the book says it, I believe it because that's the gospel truth. Hallelujah. Well, that's great if you're an evangelical, but that's not the way we, B'nai Torah, look at Torah. Have to have that sophistication of understanding things with proper knowledge and learning. And that's exactly most important when it comes to the study of Zoharic literature and the Kitvei Ari. Too many people come to this material and look at it superficially or literally. And really, oh my goodness, people who have looked at these things literally, and it goes back, centuries. They look at these things and say the Jews, the Kabbalah talks about 10 Sefirot, as if they are 10 manifestations of God. That's even worse than the Christians who believe in a Trinity. The Kabbalists have 10 gods. That's actually been a quote from many a rabbi, and their misunderstanding of Sefirot. So, exposing the raw truth, what the real Kabbalah is all about. Not just by reading what the commentary says, or what this or that rabbi says. You got to get down to the real nitty-gritty. You got to strip it naked of all of its superficialities and get to the essence of what it really means. So kudos to Simcha and his Naked Archaeologist show and everything else he's done, which we get pretty good stuff. I'm going to use that term Naked Kabbalah from now on because it really explains what it is that we need to focus on. So here's, it's the month of Elul. And of course, we're preparing for new beginnings. I've already discussed with you the astrological influence of the cosmic fields of Libra, Moznaim, the scales, which is, of course, Rosh Hashanah, and how we go through them and the influence that it has on space and time and consciousness. I give you the metaphor of turning on the tap of water. Open up the water, open up the tap, the water comes out. Where's your cup? If it's over here, you're going to miss all the water. If you're only half there, you only get half. You got to be in the proper place in order to get everything. In order to get everything that's called blessing. So where's yours? Where are you? When we first met with Rav Sharabi, Mordechai Sharabi, Lava Shalom, was the head Mekubal of Yerushalayim, if he liked you and if he would talk to you, one of the first questions he would always ask you is this: Mi ata? Who are you? I remember when I asked him that. I said, Ani Ariel. And he went, shaking his head, says, Lo, Mi ata, mi nishmatcha. Who is your soul? What is your real essence? It took me a while to understand what he meant. He was asking, what is my, if you will, my neshama's name? What is my true identity? My higher self. Digress for a quick second to explain that. We've discussed this in our previous Tikunei classes here, where in which you said, everybody always talks about the afterlife, where you go after you die. But no one ever really bothers to consider where you've been before you were born. Well, we have a soul identity, our true self. It has a name. Its name is certainly not in English or Hebrew or Yiddish or Aramaic or German, Spanish, French, or any other language on earth. It's Bariatic. I don't even know if it's angelic. It's certainly not anything that would make any sense to us. And yet it's our true essence. It's who we truly are. And maybe you have heard of the teaching from the Shara Gilgulim, Gates of Reincarnation from the Ari and other places, where in which they teach like this. When you die An angel comes to your grave, knocks on the grave, knock, 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 come. Nope. Okay. Name, please. And the angel asks your name. And you sit there and you scratch your proverbial skull and say, gee, I forgot my name. The angel says, I forgot your name. And he beats the snot out of you in what's called chibut hakever, because you didn't remember your name. If you think about it, that's a rather silly myth. It's a story which makes no sense if you're looking at it superficially. And yeah, there's even a segula, a traditional practice today, that in the recitation of the Amidah, the daily prayer, at the end, there is a scripture verse which individuals may recite, which begins with the letter of their name and ends with the letter of their name. And they think that this is somehow going to help them remember their name in the afterlife when the angel comes a knocking. Well, remember, the name that the angel is asking you to remember is not the name of your dearly departed body and your nefesh identity that just passed. No, he's asking you to remember your neshama name, your true name, the name which you had before you came into the body. It's kind of like this life, you wake up from it, you're passing on to where you originally were. And this life becomes like a dream. It's like waking up from a dream. And then you say, the angel says to you, do you remember who you are? Do you remember where you are? And you go, no, man, I'm totally out of it. I don't remember who I am, what I am. And that's when we have what's called chibut hakever. No, the angel's not beating the snot out of you. You know something, the angel tries to beat the snot out of you.